All right, welcome back to Boring Reviews. Nick here. Pathaan is the newest SRK film in several years where he's been the lead, and I got my thoughts about it right now.
Boring Reviews!
Welcome back to Boring Reviews, and if you are excited for this review, please do me a huge favor as you settle into your seat, as you lay down in your bed, as you're walking or you're running or listening to this. Do me a huge favor, take a break, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button as well. It really would do me a huge favor, and hit the notification bell so you're alerted of other future reviews or trailer reactions that you want to watch here from Boring Reviews. I'm excited to go right into this and talk about it, but I'm going to stop at a certain point and let you know when the spoilers come in. Before that, it's going to be a non-spoiler, my overall thoughts. I thought about doing right out of the theater reaction, but the reason why I didn't is the sound and the film is not the best just right outside the theater, and this gives me a few minutes to collect my thoughts. So I just finished watching the movie, and I am ready to talk about Pathaan. Hopefully I'm saying that correct. I thought it was Pathaan earlier. Where do you start? Okay, non-spoiler thoughts. Is this a movie that you should go check out, spend your money on, take a few hours out of your day, and sit down and watch? Is this something that you should invest any of your time in? Absolutely. This is a film especially for action film junkies. If you love action films, this is going to give you everything you want and more. This has got some of the greatest, most crisp, most fresh-looking action sequences, even if a lot of them were maybe inspired from several other films, a lot of those several other American films. That's okay. New take on some of those elements, new take on some of those scenes. The action sequences are top notch. The director, Siddharth Anand, did a fantastic job directing those set pieces. And not just that, but also the other set pieces in between the action sequences. Is there a lot of action in this film? Abso-positively. Probably, I would say at least 8 to 10 different action sequences. I just recently reacted to Ek the Tiger, watched for the first time, got my reaction here on the channel. You can check that out here on the channel. And my main complaint was, not that I didn't like it, I thought it was a pretty good movie. My main complaint was there wasn't a lot of action in that action film. You get it in spades in this movie, for crying out loud. How does SRK do? He really, really commits to this role. He does a fantastic job. He looks amazing. I mean, this might be a spoiler, but not really. I have never seen him in this kind of shape before. For a guy who's 57 years old, it's absolutely phenomenal. Now I know what he was doing during COVID. He was pumping iron. He was taking his creatine. He was taking his supplements. I mean, he looks like he's added on 10 or 15 pounds of muscle. Not just tone and chisel like we usually always see him, really, really toned, really, really fit. He actually put on the weight. He is very, very buff, very, very ripped. And if that's something that interests you, you're going to see a whole lot in this movie. But even with that being said, it's not like he's got his shirt off in the entire movie, which I appreciate. Because if I was in that kind of shape, I'd have my shirt off the entire movie, for crying out loud. You have John Abraham, Topeka Padukone. Did they bring the movie down or did they elevate it? I feel like they definitely elevated the movie from where it could be. They did a fantastic job. And I don't want to forget about... Dimple Kapadia. I want to make sure that was her. I thought that was her. She absolutely as well did a fantastic job. And kind of like that M character, if you're a fan of the James Bond movies. Is this movie just a hodgepodge of different scenes from different action films? You got James Bond, even Fast and the Furious. You got so much more that I'm not even remembering right now. Is it that? Where it's just, eye candy, beautiful people, music, action explosions, like a Michael Bay type thing? It's so much more than that. And I think that's as much as I can say without going to spoilers. So there's my non-spoiler review. I very much enjoyed this movie. Is this going to be the best movie of the year? I highly doubt it, but this is January. I'm not sure how Indian cinema works, but here in America, January is a slow month, even though there's been a lot of great movies already released here in January. This is definitely almost a lock to be in my top 10 by the end of the year, but it's still very, very early on. But it's that well made, and I'm a huge action film fan, but I do like to have some substance. There is substance to this movie. There is really, really good acting for our action stars in this movie, and it's just everything looks fantastic. Everything looks great. And they didn't go out of their way for a lot of the cheesy humor. Is there humor in this? Yes, but it's not a lot. It's almost like DC Universe type humor where it's just sprinkled in here and there. Doesn't bog it down with those one-liners. Are there a few one-liners? Yes, there's one great one from a character. I can't say who in this non-spoiler review, but there's not too many of them. So go ahead and check it out. It's definitely worth your time, definitely worth your money. And if you don't want to know about any spoilers, go ahead and stop the video right now. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe on your way out. If you don't mind or you've already seen it, go ahead and stick around. So now I'm gonna jump right into it. So in this movie, you have this spy universe that they are building. Okay, I believe it started with Ek the Tiger, actually, and then Tigers into High, which I need to check out. I think I said that correctly. I didn't realize that War was part of it, who was also directed by our director for this film, Siddhartha Anand. I didn't realize that was in there until they mentioned Kabir. I had to look up on my phone, who's Kabir? And it was Hrithik Roshan in the movie War. So I like how that's all part of it, all part of that universe. This spy universe, whenever you do any kind of universe, right? MCU is the most popular, the most successful one. DC Universe, it never really took off. It kept falling on its face after it would get in the air a little bit. The Lokesh Cinematic Universe, LC I think it's called, is absolutely phenomenal. It's going very, very good. We'll see how the Astro Universe goes. We only have one movie in that. But this spy universe, this movie got me really excited. I've seen Ek the Tiger. It was an okay film for me. I've seen War. It was an okay film for me, but it didn't have nearly enough substance for all the action in it. This movie is a proper Iron Man type entry into this spy universe. Even though it's not the first one, this is a very, very good action movie and a very, very good movie. It really does that universe justice, and it gets me even more excited, as I'm sure it's going to get a lot of people excited to see where else do they go, what else do they do. Speaking of that, I'm going to jump right away to the mid-credit scene. There is a post-credit scene. It's right after the first few names, I think the director and the producer, and it goes into this very extended, that's actually 2 mid-credit scenes back-to-back, so you don't have to wait around too long for the credits. And the last one is absolutely phenomenal. It's hilarious. I don't remember too many post-credit scenes in Indian films, if I'm not mistaken. But this one was great. You have, spoiler alert, once again, we're in the spoiler area. Salman Khan makes an appearance in this movie in the middle. Didn't see it coming until a guy behind me said, oh, this is where Salman Khan's going to show up. And he was correct. I was like, oh, I knew he was going to be in it, but I didn't know it was going to be that sequence. His entrance was great. It did kind of slow down the movie just a little bit, but it was still absolutely fantastic. And so you have Tiger and you have Pathaan right there sitting there, and they're talking back and forth about, we can't do this forever. We've been doing this for 30 years. You know, who else is going to take our place? And they mention this guy, nah, this guy, nah. And I'm thinking to myself, they can't be talking about Hrithik Roshan because he's been in the game for almost as long. Are they talking about Tiger, the other type of Tiger, right? Who else would they be talking about? I was curious if they were going to show someone new to the spy universe, if they're going to expand it more. I'm assuming they have plans to expand it more outside just a few of these stars franchises they already have going on. And that right there also got me super excited. But it was also hilarious how these older actors who are embracing that, talking about their low back pain, like, oh my gosh, it just hurts to sit down. How are we going to keep doing this? But we got to do this for our country. We can't let someone take our spot. I thought that was beautiful. I thought that was a great mid-credit scene, and it's something you definitely got to stick around to check out if you still have not seen it. What are you still watching? This is spoilers right here. This film was a great spy film. No one goes into a spy film expecting it to be nominated for a Best Picture in any type of serious artsy type of award show. But that's not what we need. That's not what we watch it for. We watch it for action. We watch it to keep guessing. We watch it to see who can we trust, who can we not trust. We watch it to see the characters, the chemistry. And this movie had all of that. There were sequences that happened that I did not expect. When they had opened up the orb in Afghanistan, which we find out is Pathaan's, what he considers his homeland, his little city, his little village there. That totally had me going. I had no idea. Like, did someone steal it? Did they plan this or that? Did they fake opening the orb in the lab for in India? Like, what's going on? That totally had me, and that was such an awesome scene. It was a surprise, but it had a lot of emotion to it. As soon as the guy went like this, and it was a hologram, all those people stood up, and they were all right there, and then he introduces his family, and you see his adopted mother, all that kind of. That was such a beautiful scene. That was so great. And it was at the end of the movie where it kind of helped balance a lot of the action that was sandwiched on the outside of that scene. That was beautiful. There were other surprises. Like I assumed that Dubai, is that? That's not her, that can't be her name. It doesn't make any sense. Rubina. He called her something else, but Rubina, played by Deepika Padukone. I assumed that she would probably turn on at some point, but I didn't expect it to be almost similar to the turn in Ek the Tiger, even though they weren't. I don't see them as romantically connected as those two characters were in Ek the Tiger, but it was kind of similar where they switched and they switched back. But I didn't see even that coming. John Abraham. Let's talk about some of the characters right here, the actors. John Abraham did a fantastic job as a villain, and he was almost that over-the-top villain, but he sold it so wonderfully. I think he did fantastic in this. Let me know what you think about his turn, not his turn, because we knew he was a villain from the very beginning, but his portrayal of this villain, of Jim. Such a simple name. I thought he did great, and I thought he was that type of villain that you worried, can Pathaan get to him? Can he overcome him? Can he beat him? And he was definitely a deserved foe, and John Abraham really, really sold it. You had Deepika Padukone, like I said, she did a fantastic job in this movie. When did she not? Her chemistry with SRK, I mentioned every movie I've seen them in. I think this is my third movie I've seen them in. It's just there. And I don't mean chemistry as like, oh, I wonder if, her husband has got something to worry about. No, he doesn't. It's the acting, the friendship, the kinship chemistry that they just have. It always shows on screen. And I don't know if you necessarily needed her character, to tell you the truth, but she definitely made the movie better. Some of the outfits I thought was interesting. I'm not going to get into the yellow bikini. I know there's a whole bunch of drama. I'm not worried about that. But some of the outfits were a little interesting, almost James Bond-like, Bond girl-like. But other than that, she did a really, really great job. There is something I got to say about her. I love Deepika Padukone. I really, really like this movie. But it's not a perfect movie. And I'm just going to jump into one of my faults. It's a very, very small fault or flaw. But it kind of made me laugh a little bit. There's a scene where the orb goes onto the frozen water. And at first I thought, wow, that's really bad CGI for that water. But I realized it was frozen. Okay, it was a frozen ocean or lake or whatever that was. It goes on there. And you got Jim on his motorcycle. And I think Pathaan on his motorcycle. But then out of nowhere comes Deepika's character on speed skates, on ice skates for speed skate like you see in the Olympics. Like, that to me was just so bonkers and out of place. Now, she sold it. She looked like she's a professional speed skater with the form that she had, and she did a great job with it, but why did we have that in the movie? Wouldn't she have time to put on speed skates, tie them up, and start racing and out racing a motorcycle, for crying out loud? It was just so weird. It was so out of place. And for me, it just made me chuckle a little bit. That was one of the things that I was like, I don't know about that. Like, does she carry speed skates in her pack everywhere she goes for the event that it happens? And I can just see her, like, it's all dramatic and the orb's floating around. They're going after her and she's stupid shoelaces. There's a knot right here. I don't know. That kind of made me laugh a little bit. But getting back to the movie here, Dimple Kapadia as the head of JOCR. James Bond has M, okay? And for the longest time, it was a man, and then Judi Dench came in and took over that character for several Bond films and did a fantastic job. She had that presence of leadership. That's what Dimple Kapadia is, but she made her own. She's not doing an M impression. I'm not trying to say that, but she's that type of matriarch, and she did such a great job. And at the end, where you see her face and she's getting infected and she's giving that speech, I mean, that was really touching. That was really powerful. She really nailed it. When is she not? She is such a seasoned actor, and she has so much experience, and it really showed in this movie, even though it was an action movie. And now SRK. SRK is so phenomenal. I am such a huge fan of his and Salman Khan, but such a huge fan of SRK. He never disappoints me. In this movie, he tones down the charisma to a certain point, and that's not a bad thing. And he gives us more of a serious role, even though he has complete control of this character. I think it's a new character. I don't think he's ever portrayed this character, but he owns it so well. He really committed. Like I said, the shape he got in, it's absolutely phenomenal. But he really, really sells this character, and it's what makes the entire movie. surprise, surprise, he's the king once again. I think it's been 3 or 4 years since he's led a movie on screen, and he comes here and he absolutely takes ownership of the entire movie, and it elevates it incredibly. The director really impressed me, Siddhartha Anand, and anyone that was in charge of the cinematographer, in charge of the action sequences, they were absolutely top notch. Like I said, yes, they stole something from Fast and the Furious. They're not stole, but they were probably inspired, because it didn't look like it was just a copycat. It was done in a different way, but a same kind of situation. There was a lot from James Bond type sequences and action sequences, but there was a lot that was its own as well. The action sequence where he's tied up at the very beginning when we get introduced to him, that was absolutely phenomenal. The fights between him and John Abraham, the several fights, absolutely phenomenal. The sequences where it's the cat and mouse, it's the back and forth, it's Pathaan is in the middle of 15 bad guys, he's got to figure out a way. When Salman Khan comes in, it does kind of slow it down to a certain degree, but it's a hilarious slowdown, because you got Pathaan who's exhausted, and then Salman Khan brings him what I thought was a smoothie and some painkillers so he can take a breath. He's like, okay, you've had too much time, let's go. And when they had that explosion, he can't help himself with the pin and the grenade. You have that one-liner, which I really liked, where this is a blast. I thought that was appropriate for that moment. And you had so many different sequences like that. When the machine guns are on top of the train and they see that helicopter and you know what's going to happen. Absolutely phenomenal. This was just such a fun, great movie and a great way to start off 2023. I know I'm forgetting some things, but I just absolutely loved it. There are some sequences that are a little slow, and when it slows down, it really slows down for about maybe 5 or 10 minutes and it picks up. But it doesn't spend too much time in one area, which kind of makes it fresh for the most part. It has a lot of emotion. I love the idea of these soldiers that have been defeated or have been hurt, but they still have something. They call them the broken eggshells. Still have something to commit, and they become part of the team. I love the way it ended, where he was able to take control of that unit, and he calls the shots. I'm excited to see where that goes in the future. I'm just excited for this spy universe, and I think that Siddhartha Anand, the mistakes that I think he made in War, I really think he made up for in this movie, and he directed himself a nearly perfect action film, okay? And it almost made me think of Top Gun Maverick to a certain degree, where you have an aging star, they're both around the same age, who really commits, who really takes over everything, who really is able to bring their heart and soul into a movie. And you have a genre that not everyone considers to always be these billion-dollar genres, but in the action genre or whatever, or in the Top Gun sequence, a 40-year sequel. And it's just a great movie. It's a great movie. It's got a lot of heart to it. The characters are really nuanced, and they're developed, and we get some time with them. And it was also like, one can argue or maybe complain that there was too much background information for each character, but I didn't think so. I thought the flashbacks they used, when they used them, were done very, very appropriately. And I'm just tired talking about it because it's so much fun. I'm exhausted because it was just such a great thing to watch. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. I would have to give this movie, even though it's an action film, even though it's a spy film, even though there was fighting on top of a moving train, and there was the speed skate on the ice, and there was some silly sequences, but overall amazing sequences, I would have to give this film an A- because it was just executed so fantastically. I can see a lot of people dumping on this, but not most people. I think most people are really going to enjoy it. I think this movie is going to make $1 zillion in the box office. I think this is going to really elevate all the careers of these stars that we already have, and I'm excited to see what happens next. Let me know what your thoughts are for this film. What were some of your favorite sequences? What were some sequences that you thought were a little silly? I know I'm missing some things, but it was all great. Really enjoyed it. A great time in the theater, and it's not even that long. I think it's less than 2.5 hours. Go ahead and check it out this weekend if you have the time. Let me know what else you want me to check out, what else you want me to review or react to as far as the movie goes. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, adios.